and welcome to our next Grow with Google presentation. So last week we focused on how to create a great resume with Google Docs. This week we're going to focus on how to use Google effectively to search for jobs and the various tools under the Google umbrella you can use to make your job search more effective. So let's dive right into it. It's a big presentation. Just like last week, if you need to stop, go back, feel free. And just like last week, if you have any questions at all, feel free to email me at mtpl@montvillelibrary.org. That's mtpl@montvillelibrary.org. Okay, so obviously, with everything that's going on with COVID, job searching, just like virtually every other aspect of our lives, has changed pretty dramatically. Um, and so it's important to sort of reorient yourself to this new world where a lot has changed. And what are some of those things that have changed? So there's some challenges, right? There's fewer word of mouth opportunities, obviously, because we're simply, due to social distancing, having less contact with people in general. So those, little fortuitous or little serendipitous moments you might have had in life where you sort of run into somebody and from that running in, it ultimately results in a job lead. Those moments are much harder to come by these days for obvious reasons. Um, Another challenge that we're facing right now is if you're trying to conduct a job search from home, um, it can be quite distracting for various reasons. There may be music being played, there may be a TV going, there may be children who are being disruptive. The home environment is, brings it's comfortable, it's great, but when you're trying to get work done, as any of us who have done work from home for any time period of time can tell you, it does have challenges that are unique to that environment. So that's another issue you have to deal with. Um, and staying on top of a job search right now can be especially challenging if you're, managing and trying to arrange childcare, um, making new living arrangements, perhaps. There's just a lot out there right now, and finding a job is hard enough to begin with. This just makes it that much more difficult. So, what can we do? What tools can we use? What strategies can we deploy? Try to overcome these challenges that we face in this very unique environment. That's sort of the broad overview of what we are going to be discussing today. And so let's start with, how do we deal with that home environment that we talked about being a bit difficult to work from, to do a job search from in general. So if we look at the first bullet here, keep your routine. So, for example, if you normally get up at 6:30 in the morning to take a shower and eat breakfast before work, even though you might not be reporting to an office, you might be unemployed, you might be working from home, try to stick with that. Um, Maintain your regular hours as best as you can. I know when the first, weeks of quarantine, when I was at home and not doing much, I lapsed into this very bizarre sleep pattern where I would go to bed around 2 a.m. I'd wake up around 8 a.m. I'd be up for an hour or two. I'd nap, and then I'd go back to, and then I'd wake up again. So it was a very strange sleep pattern. Um, but a routine keeps you grounded in a sense of normalcy, and it helps you stay productive. So try not to let that happen to you, like it happened to me. Um, Create a dedicated work spot and customize it. So if you're going to be working from home or job searching from home, you're going to want a place that's sort of quote unquote professional, quote unquote your office, and go report to that spot every day, just like you would your normal workplace. Um, and if you don't have the luxury of having the space in your home for a dedicated office, at least try to like sit at the same place every day, wherever that is in your house, just so again you have a sense of, okay, yes, I'm at home, um, but I'm at work at home, and this is my workplace. This area, this office, or this chair, or whatever it is. When I'm in this place physically, I'm doing work, and my mindset is wrapped into work. Um, schedule lunch and breaks. So again, just like this sort of sense that we're trying to create a sense of workplace at home, lunches and breaks are part of most workplaces that I've ever been a part of, and those should be a part of your work from home or job search from home base camp as well. Um, and make sure you add them to your daily schedule so you don't just sort of do them whenever. Try to do them on a regular basis in a scheduled way, not in a haphazard, ad hoc kind of way. And try to avoid sitting in front of your computer for 8 hours or more straight without a break. It's not healthy for you in a lot of different ways, but primarily not healthy for your eyes, not healthy for your physical health in terms of potential carpal tunnel issues creeping in or potential issues with your vision. Also, a lot of studies have shown that it's important for your cardiovascular health to get up at least once an hour and walk around for a couple minutes. So make sure you build those into your schedule as well. A break isn't necessarily like a formal 15-minute thing all the time. It could just be, at the top of every hour, you get up and you stretch your legs for a few minutes. I would recommend physically distancing yourself at that moment from the workspace you've set up, just so you do feel like you're entering into a different mental state as well as physical state, um, a break room, sort of, quote unquote, if you will, within your own home. Um, create a daily to-do list the day before. So again, the sense of having an agenda, the sense of organization, the sense of having purpose and focus, just like you would at an office, is very important to create in the home environment, to keep you mentally, physically, and emotionally on track as you work throughout your day. And then finally, if you're not quote unquote at work, don't work. In other words, like we talked about, if you're on a break or your day is over, physically separate yourself from that designated workplace and do something else. Have fun, work on a hobby, talk to a family member, call a friend, whatever it is. But try not to just have the situation where you're constantly sort of drifting in and out of work every hour around the clock. Again, not healthy, I think, physically and mentally if you get into that pattern. There should be a designated time for work, and there should be a designated time to not work, and a designated place to work, and a designated place to not work within your home. So let's take a look at our agenda today. So we have created job search plan in Google Sheets. Google Sheets is a spreadsheet, um, like Microsoft Excel, which you're probably more familiar with. The great thing about Google Sheets is they're cloud-based, which makes it very easy to work on it from anywhere. We're going to use jobs on Google Search to find opportunities. So how do we optimize our strategy for finding jobs now? I mean, it's virtually every position now is advertised online, most of them exclusively online. So having an effective search strategy to ferret out those opportunities, particularly this environment where almost everything is virtual now and you're not going to have those word of mouth opportunities as easily as you did pre-COVID, having a good search strategy, extremely important. Now, in this presentation, Google also create a resume from a template in Google Docs. We actually worked on that last week, if you recall. So if you didn't see last week's presentation, feel free to go back in the YouTube channel here and watch that. So we won't be covering that this week just because we did that last week and there'd be no sense in it. But that topic is covered at great length in last week's presentation. So please feel free to go back and review it or watch it if you haven't seen it yet. And then finally, another very unique challenge of this time period is that job interviews, almost always, except if you were interviewing for a position perhaps across the country or far away or internationally, were almost always done in person, always. But again, with COVID now, many job interviews are taking place on virtual platforms like Google Meet. And so that presents its own set of challenges and opportunities. And so we'll go over how to effectively conduct yourself in an interview remotely, which again is happening a lot more these days. Materials for this workshop. I used to, when I was searching for jobs, I used to keep them in a Word document, like all of the things that I discovered, and it was kind of haphazard and messy and certainly not the best way to display the information. So I wish I had found this earlier in my life, but such is life sometimes. So Google Sheets, it's a spreadsheet. If you're familiar with Microsoft Excel, you know what spreadsheets are all about. If you're not familiar with Microsoft Excel, a spreadsheet is basically just a way to organize information effectively. And so we'll show you how you can apply those principles of organization that a spreadsheet uses to keep track of your job search. Um, and a lot of people do find it easier to search for jobs than apply for them in waves. So in other words, you do a search for jobs one day, and then the next day you move on to applying for those jobs and sort of alternating back and forth. And that's where, again, keeping things organized in a spreadsheet can really be very useful because, it's very easy to forget things from day to day, especially if you're searching for jobs a mile a minute. It's easy to, really think, oh, this is a great opportunity. You get distracted by something, and then 5 minutes later, you've completely forgotten what it is, and it's buried on your computer somewhere. You accidentally close the window, or whatever it might be. Um, so keeping track of everything in a spreadsheet can definitely be an effective way not to have that happen to you. So let's dig in and we'll see how we're going to do this. So the first step, and if you saw the presentation last week on creating a resume with Google Docs, just like last week, the first step is to sign in with your Google account, which again is one and the same with a Gmail account. So if you don't know how to do that, you can refer back to the video from last week, but basically it's a very easy setup if you don't already have a Gmail account. You just would click create account as you see in this illustration here and then fill out the form. If you do have a Google account / Gmail account already, you just click sign in and sign in. So once you've done that, you're going to go ahead and access Google Apps. So if you're looking again in this illustration, that little 3x3 grid of icons, that icon there, you click that and you get into all of your Google Apps. And then once you've done that, you're going to click on Google Drive, which is in the top row all the way to the right. And now we're going to go ahead and actually create our sheet. So we're going to click on New in the upper left, and then Google Sheets, which is the second option, and then a blank spreadsheet. And you'll notice, of course, it pops up as untitled. So the first thing we're going to want to do, obviously, is give it a title, job search, tracker, or whatever you prefer. So this is the basics of a spreadsheet, not just Google Sheets, but any spreadsheet. You've got your columns and your rows. So obviously your columns get the name of that category of information. So in this case, in this default template, we've set up job position in the first column, company name in the second, salary or hourly rate in the third, the website URL where you found the job listing in the fourth, and then any notes you have about the job in a fifth. Now, of course, you can customize these. You can change the order that they're presented in. You can add additional fields if you think that would be useful. Maybe the date that you found the position online, you might want to put in another column because they often change quickly. Now, this document will be saved not on your computer, but on Google Drive. And again, we talked about this last week, but to briefly recap, the advantage of saving the document on Google Drive is that you can access this document from any internet-connected device anywhere. So it's not limited to your local computer. You can connect anywhere, and also not just on computers. You can even access Google Drive on smartphones and tablets. So pretty much anywhere you are in the world at any time, you can access your information. So it's extremely useful. And it's also safer in a sense because if you have this beautiful job tracker you've been working on studiously and your computer crashes and you lose your hard drive, you lose that sheet too unless you have a backup. But with cloud storage, because it's not saved locally, it's on a server with redundant backup copies, it's virtually impossible to lose a document like that. So a lot of advantages to saving on the cloud. So once you've created the sheet, you're going to, again, give it those column headers like we talked about. And again, you can change the order, you can change the contents, It's really however you want to do, whatever makes the most sense for you. So you just go ahead and input the data in the first row there. But again, these are just suggestions. So then we're going to format the spreadsheet to make it very readable. So this is where you can really unleash your creativity if you can do such a thing in a spreadsheet. So you'll notice here in this animation, they're bolding the section headings. They made the first line blue so that it really stands out from the rest of the sheet. This is where the sky's the limit. You can play with colors, fonts all day long if you want, or not. It's whatever, again, this is whatever makes the most sense for you to keep this information organized and easily readable and accessible. So feel free to use the formatting tool and the toolbar to customize the job tracker for the most effective organization for you. This topic is going to be how to search for jobs with Google search to get the most optimal and powerful results. Searching with Google is something almost all of us do multiple times a day. I know I've been addicted to it since probably about 1999, so 20 years of Googling under my belt. But the danger of that is that it can be really easy to think you're making good searches when you could be making better ones. That will uncover more information. So we're just going to take a quick look at some ways that you can really search effectively and really pinpoint on those opportunities you're trying to identify. And we are also going to briefly focus on special opportunities for veterans, if you're a veteran, and how you can target your job searches more effectively as well. So let's dive right in. So searching for a job on Google starts just like searching for anything else on Google, google.com, and then you're just going to go ahead and fill in your terms in the search bar. So you can literally start with something as basic as jobs near me hiring. You can search for part-time jobs, retail jobs, any kind of job you're looking for. You can also, and a lot of people don't realize this, you can also phrase your search in the form of a question. So for example, you could search for what are the best jobs near me. Now obviously the more terms and the more specific you get with your search, the more the information that's going to come back to you is going to be more tailored and high quality. They kind of refer that in the search geek world as signal to noise ratio. So the better you make your search, the better the signal you're going to get from Google and less noise. So just keep that in mind as you work forward through searching in the Google toolbar. So once you've done the search, as you can see in this diagram, this person just started with jobs near Memphis, Tennessee. So a pretty broad search, you know. But once you've done that, you'll notice that there's tabs underneath in the results that allow you to drill down deeper into that gigantic list of hits you're going to get when you just make something as broad as that. So for example, and you can see on the screen here, you could search for jobs near Memphis, Tennessee that have been posted only in the past 3 days, or jobs near Memphis, Tennessee that are only full-time, or jobs near Memphis, Tennessee that are only work from home, in a million different ways. So a lot of people, you could start with that really broad search, but then I really recommend using those tabs to kind of drill down. Otherwise, you're going to be scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, and it may take you, 5-10 minutes of scrolling just to get to your first relevant result. So that's a step that a lot of people miss. They think once you've entered your terms into the search bar, that's it. But you should really look at that as just the first step in refining your search down to get and narrow it down to what you're really looking for. So each job result in Google, as you can see in this illustration that's on the screen here, will give you more data about that job. So this person's looking for warehouse jobs in Houston, and now they're scrolling through their results. And so you can see it tells you when it was posted. It can tell you if it's full or part-time. In some cases, it'll have salary information already there in the ad. So it's important to really, when you get that results list, to really focus on those little sort of fine print underneath the bold heading of the job title itself, because you can find some really useful information there that could either make you say, hey, this is definitely what I'm looking for, or no, this is definitely not what I'm looking for, and I'm not even going to bother sending a resume. So definitely drill down onto those details. And here, sort of showing you just those details in a larger screen here so you can really see it. So this job listing, for example, has multiple ways you can apply. So you can apply on Glassdoor. You can apply directly on the company's website. It's got salary information. It's got the type of job. So this is a full-time permanent position. It's got the location, and it's also got the start date. Now, you won't get that information for every single job listing. I actually played around with this a little bit before I made this recording, and it really depends on the company and how much detail they shared on their listing. So some companies, you'll see it's very, very complete. Others, the details are much less complete. But you should always definitely look for them if they're there and present. So as I mentioned previously, Google does also have some tools to help veterans find jobs. You can search using your MOS, which is your Military Occupational Specialty Code. Now, I'm not completely familiar with what that is, but I'm sure the veterans who are listening to this know what that means. But you can also use generic terms such as veteran jobs near me, veteran management jobs, IT jobs for veterans, just to name a few examples. And this is showing you how you enter your MOS code. And that will then go ahead and narrow those jobs that have been tagged with that relevant MOS code, so that you can get more relevant results that are more tailored to your skill set. And just like we mentioned before, you always want to use these filters to narrow down your search result. So this person is currently filtering using job title. So they've now selected sales representative positions only. So that will rule out all the other titles that are out there. So they're not going to get hits for, babysitting or a nurse's aide or anything like that. They're going to get what they're looking for. So again, a very important, a very powerful step that a lot of people do miss. Work from home. So again, you can filter all the results to show you only work from home results. Obviously, in the current environment, that can be a really important factor for a lot of people. Your children may not be at school full time in the fall. You may not be comfortable coming to a workplace. This is a way for you to focus on the jobs where you can actually just stay at home. And so another key step to take is if you do find a job that you're interested in, you can actually save it to apply for it later. So maybe you don't have time right now to actually go ahead and fill out the application or submit your resume. If you'll notice next to the job titles, there's that little bookmark. You can go ahead and click on that to turn it blue, and that will go ahead and save those titles into your saved list. So if you notice on the top there, you've got a saved tab, and that's where all those jobs would end up going. So very useful if you're crunched for time, or you just simply want to keep browsing through the results list and look in more detail later. Setting alerts, another very useful feature. So you can create a search, say sales representative positions near Houston, Texas, and then you could turn on alerts for the search, meaning you will be emailed whenever a new job listing with those factors or those criteria gets posted. That's incredibly useful because getting your application in early can sometimes be the difference between getting an interview and not. If the first 5 people who send a resume have really killer resumes and amazing qualifications, that company may stop their search right then and there at those 5 people and interview them first. So you definitely want to get in there as early as possible. So turning on email alerts, incredibly useful, incredibly important tool. once you've gotten your sort of results and you've narrowed it down, and you've searched effectively, you're going to want to go back to that Google sheet we made in the previous step and start go ahead and filling in all the relevant information. This will keep you on top of things. It'll keep you organized. It'll help prevent the feeling that you're drowning in a sea of data and you're floundering about. Um, Very, very important. So this just shows you here in this illustration how this theoretical job searcher is filling in all the fields that they created. So again, very important step to keep yourself organized. Okay, so our next topic, as we mentioned earlier when we started this, will be on how to do an effective virtual job interview with Google Meet. Another very unique aspect of the current situation we find ourselves in is many job interviews are now being conducted remotely for reasons of social distancing. So it's a different set of skills than interviewing in person. And so we're just going to go over a little bit of how you can be an effective virtual job interviewer. So Google Meet is like many of the other products out there right now where it allows you to very easily connect using the webcam built into your computer and the microphone to sort of, I guess you could say, Jetson style video chat with another person or other people all at the same time. So it really can be anywhere in the world. It doesn't even have to be necessarily in the United States. It's pretty wild. Um, and so again, in the current environment, a lot more companies are using remote interviewing to start at least those initial round of interviews. So it's something that's very important these days. And just like any other, anything else or in-person interviewing, the more you do it, the better you'll get at it with practice. You might even want to try practicing with yourself in front of the computer. I remember when I got my first sort of tips about job interviews, I was always told to practice in front of the mirror the night before. Um, this would be the same thing, but don't do it in front of the mirror. Do it in front of the computer because that's where you're actually going to be doing it. So you want to be comfortable with how you look on screen, how you sound on screen, and all that sort of thing. And so here are just some quick best practices for you to do. You always want to obviously look towards the camera. Pretend the camera is basically the person across the table from you or the people across the table from you, just like in real life, you want to maintain steady eye contact. Speak clearly. Sometimes with internet connections, especially if it's over a great distance, the audio quality can kind of fade in and fade out. The best way to compensate for that is to speak clearly and enunciate well. Pay attention. This seems like a simple thing, but it's easy to, when you're not in a room with another person, it's easy for your attention to drift. Or if you maybe forgot to sign out of your messaging application on your computer, maybe a text from a family member or friend will pop up and distract you. I would definitely recommend turning everything off except for the Google Meet software or whatever software you're interviewing with, and just focus extremely well on that window and try to minimize distractions. You might also want to close the door. You might want to if there's people living with you, let them know, hey, I'm going on a job interview at 2 o'clock. Please do not disturb me unless it's, a matter of life and death, just so you can stay focused. You also might want to pay attention to lighting. This is why it's good to practice the night before in front of the computer to make sure that the lighting is good. I've noticed in some of the virtual meetings I've been in recently, sometimes brightness can either be too high or too low. So either it's hard to see the person's face or the brightness is too high and they appear kind of blown out, and you might not be able to see all the details of their expression. So definitely play with the lighting and play with the brightness settings on your computer to make sure that, it looks good. It looks solid. It's not too bright. It's not too dim. Finally, dress. You want to look professional. I was just reading an article last week about how sweatpants sales are up 80% in the United States for obvious reasons. But again, I would say when you're on a virtual interview, dress as if you were in person. It'll help keep you in that mental sort of job interview mind frame, and it will also eliminate any possibility that your interviewer might think you're not dressed professionally for a job interview. And then finally, as we've mentioned throughout this, practice. The more you practice this, the better you'll get at it, just like anything else. Um, these are the Google apps. So we focused on Sheets today. We focused on Search today. Last week, we focused on Docs to help you create a really good resume. And then again, Meet fits into this paradigm as well. So this is sort of the whole family of Google apps that we've kind of reviewed over the last 2 weeks. Each one of them has their role to play in helping you become an effective job searcher. And again, I know I've thrown a lot of information at you, so if you need to review any of it, always feel free to go back and review it. If you have any questions for me, you can always feel free to email me. I'll have the email address in the description of this video. So you can always email me, and I'd be happy to answer any questions I can to the best of my ability. The last topic I'd like to talk about is the learning opportunities that this COVID-19 situation gives us. So, while you're searching for jobs, it's also a great time to build up your skills. And there are some resources that I'd like to go over quickly that can help you build those skills as you apply for jobs. I will also have links in the description of this video to all of these resources if you'd like to explore any of them further. So applied digital skills is the first one we'll talk about. Anybody can get training on the G Suite, which is a lot of these Google products we've been talking about. And I will have the link to that in the description. There is absolutely no cost to this training. So even if you don't want to get certified in Google Cloud or the G Suite, you can still take the lessons. If you do want to get certified, you have to pass an exam. The exam does have a $79 charge. But again, you can review all the materials and learn all of the content without having to pay for that exam or take it. They're video-based lessons, so they prepare learners of all ages for jobs that require these basic digital skills. So if you have to brush up on your basic skills that so many jobs require now, this is a great way to do it for free. There's also a tool called Google Primer, and it's a free app that you can actually download to your phone. If you have an Android device, you would download it in the Google Play Store. If you have an Apple device, you would download it from the App Store. These are like very short, fun lessons that are just a couple minutes each, and they just help you sort of think about effective ways to run your business and how to market your business. So again, another free tool, very useful. Skillshop. So this is a way to become an expert on how to use Google itself with a business. So this is a one-stop training center for everyone who can use Google professional tools and solutions. You can get training on Google Ads, Google Analytics, Google Business, and even more. So the lessons here are categorized based on your experience. So if you're a beginner, if you're an intermediate, or even an advanced user, there's plenty to learn here at Skillshop. And again, that is all free. And then finally, Grow with Google, which is what this presentation is part of. Again, a ton of free content there to help you become a better job searcher, a more effective professional, to build your skills, or even to learn how to code if you're a developer or if you want to become a developer. And it's at grow.google. And again, the link will be included in the description, but there's a ton of content there for you to explore and learn. So let's just recap what our steps are here. The first thing you're going to do is create a job search tracker from sheets.google.com. Format it as pretty as you'd like it to be or not, whatever suits you or whatever floats your boat. Then we're going to use the search skills we learned today and the filtering skills to drill down and find the opportunities that really interest you and are really relevant to you. As we talked about last week, you can go to docs.google.com to create a really professional looking and powerful resume that will help you become a more effective candidate for, and a more attractive candidate, I should say, for a job. Practice your mock interviewing skills at meet.google.com for those online virtual interviews that are very common these days. And then again, you can review some of the resources I just covered to continue to grow your career and your skill set. And again, all of these links will be included in the description. And I just wanted to thank you for paying attention to this very long video. If you are seeking a job, I really hope that this has given you some valuable information that can help you become a better and more confident job seeker. I wish you the best of luck, and thank you for listening. Take care.